Hello there, I'm just connecting everywhere else. Hello. I think I am live everywhere. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. Hello everyone, I hope that you are well. Welcome to Winning Wednesdays tutorial this time round. I hope you can all hear me well. If you can, I have my mic here. I'm going to pull it a bit closer. I hope you can hear me well. I'll project my voice a little more. I'm Nicole Louie. I hope that you're well. I'm the social worker strategy mentor, and I'm here to help and serve social workers in becoming independent. And so I love what I do. I'm here coming live with you on our Winning Wednesday tutorial. I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to join because I know that there were a number of people that wanted to join this live stream, this tutorial. I'm streaming here into the private Facebook community. And everywhere else. And so I'm hoping that everyone can hear me. Put in the comments if you can hear me okay. And they're on Instagram. If you can, I know that you can hear and see me fine because right in front of me so I can see everything. But on the other platforms, I might not be able to see all of your comments. So please do just let me know if you can hear and see me if you're watching. So we're going to kick off. We're only together for half an hour today. And so I just want to make sure that I'm sharing some golden nuggets. Today, I'm going to be talking about the actions I took that really changed my career. So like I said, my name is Nicole M. Louie. I'm a frontline social worker. For those of you that are new to me, I'm a frontline child protection social worker. And I did that for more than 15 years. More than 15 years in frontline, did some long-term, worked with children who were looked after, worked with children with disabilities. So I predominantly done children, families. Kerwin, thank you, loud and clear, brilliant. And so I predominantly done children, families. And so like most of you, you know, I was in the trenches, working late nights, dealing with high caseloads. And there were some things that I did really to get me to a place where I am now, which is completely independent. I've been completely independent now for 6 years. That means I don't have a side hustle. I don't work for a local authority or private company. You know, I find my own work. I create my own products and services, and I pitch and I deliver and get repeat work. And I, you know, help people in communities. I help social workers. I do lots of different things. And so I'm just going to take you on a bit of a journey of what I did, really, the actions that I took that really helped change my career. Like right now, I am living literally my best life. I'm enjoying the way I work. I'm enjoying the way I live, i.e. I get up when I want to. I go to bed when I want to. You know, I start work, stop work when I want to. I'm doing the kind of work that really resonates and aligns with how I feel and how I want things to be delivered. But more than that, I'm doing it in a way that is creative. I'm doing it in a way that really speaks to those that I serve. And that has been the thing that has always allowed me to stand out among those that I've maybe been up against, either other independent social workers or even just as a social worker delivering services reports, because it's never just a report, right? There's also a way you can package things and present things. And so that's really been my experience. I mean, just this week, the weather today in London is really rubbish again. I don't know what's happened to the sun, but you know, the last couple of days we had really hot weather, and I'm so glad I took advantage. I spontaneously decided I was just not going to do any work, and I went and met up with a friend on Monday, and we went and did a bit of shopping. We went and went for a bit of a walk. And we just enjoyed the sunshine and had a lovely time. And similarly, yesterday I went roller skating in the afternoon and I did it for longer than I expected, actually. But it was nice. It was nice to have the flexibility and option to do that, like not being chained to a desk. So I really enjoy the idea of being able to plan going away. So last year and the year before, I spent a lot of time out of the country for one reason or another. Sometimes it was for treatment and to help me with health. but just taking a load off and getting away was really important for me. But having the ability and the option to do that and the flexibility to do that, so spending a couple of months in a Caribbean country, coming back and traveling to Scotland, traveling to Wales, going to Toronto, just doing different things, some of which was business related, some of it wasn't. It was just really nice to have that flexibility, and then COVID hit. But it's not going to stop me. I'm still going to be getting out there and doing different things. But yeah, just planning and being able to live how I want to live in the way I want to do it is really, really important to me. And I'm really enjoying the fact that I have that level of autonomy and flexibility without compromising my income, without compromising, my health, without compromising or, settling on a lot of things that I didn't want to settle on. So I really took the time to carve out, my desire, my vision of what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And some of that has been built along the way. So I'm just really going to share with you some of the key steps. There are 7 things. I've broken them down to 7 things. If you've watched enough of my lives, I like to use numbers. I used to like to do listicles. And so I'd say that there were 7 things in particular that I did. Now, of course, there are going to be other things that went along with it along the way, but these are kind of the main things as an overarching theme that I did that really changed my career. I'll tell you a little bit about where I was and how I was feeling. I guess I would say that in my time as a social worker, it was something that I wanted to do since I was a young person, a child. And so I strategized my whole life's work and career around becoming a social worker. And then when I got into it, of course, I enjoyed it. But after a while, it wore on me, the long nights, the high caseloads, the concerns and worries about whether I've done the right thing for children, the families that I was working with, whether I was making the right decisions, how I was leaving families, the processes that I was taking families through. There were just a few things that it started to wear on me: the red tape, the bureaucracy, and sometimes not getting the support for families that I really wanted, but more so how I felt for myself. One of the first things that I had to do is I had to really get real with where I was. Yeah, I had to really take stock of what I was feeling and listen to what I was feeling and be honest with myself. What I was doing a lot of was kind of band-aiding. I was ignoring signs and symptoms. I was ignoring how I felt, and I was just kind of rolling over and, club hopping from one local authority to the other. And I really found that when I sat down and really thought about where I was in life and how I was feeling, yes, I'd progressed and done great things in my career. I'd done a lot of mentoring of student social workers, newly qualified social workers. My colleagues would come to me and ask for advice about how to do things, even when there was a senior prac and I wasn't necessarily a senior prac at that time. I've done the senior prac stuff. I've done auditing of cases. Local authorities asked me to come and do auditing. I've worked on projects with local authorities. I did a lot that I was happy with, and working in different places, different experiences. But, I really had to sit down and think about how I was feeling and connect with my feelings around it rather than just the head stuff, right? Because I think we can feel as though, yeah, we're progressing and doing well, but how do we feel about what we are doing and how we're doing it? And I found that, I felt anxious. I was definitely tired. I was feeling overwhelmed at times, definitely when I'm waking up in the middle of the night, worrying about whether I've done things on cases where I wasn't sleeping. I was feeling restless sometimes because I knew what I wanted to be doing and how I wanted to be feeling, but I couldn't quite grasp how I was going to do that. How was I going to get that? I felt very unhappy. I felt frustrated at times, to be honest. Because again, I was stuck between this rock and this hard place of, I want to keep doing social work, but not in this way. But then what else am I going to do type thing? And I went as far as to do some information seeking and seek somebody out that was helping me understand business, but it still didn't really help me. Like, it didn't help me put the meat on the bones. It gave me a lot of the theory stuff, but how do I actually apply this? How do I do this in real life? Like, who do I call? Where do I go? What should it look like? All those things. I just had so many questions. And so I was feeling really fed up, and I really got to a stage where I was feeling like, what's the point of this? Why am I doing this? Why am I here? And I felt uncertain. I felt unsure about what was I going to do? How was I going to do it? And I didn't know really where to go. And that's why I had to kind of sort out that business person. And then when I felt that that took me as far as it could, I just went back to square one and didn't do anything with it. So I had to get real was the first step, was how I was feeling. That's why focusing on the cognitive and staying in my head about what I was doing wasn't enough. I had to go deeper, and I really had to connect how I was feeling with what I was doing. And how was I feeling about that? Was it a good feeling? Were they good and positive feelings that were coming up? No, it was, the vast majority was negative. Yes, it was lovely when I'd get a card from a family telling me that they'd miss me, and things like that. But that wasn't enough. Like, I wasn't getting that often enough to keep me going and to keep me there. So that was the first thing. I had to get real. The second thing that I had to do was appraise, my actions. I had to think to myself, what was I contributing to my situation? What was I contributing? And again, this is a part of like the getting real in a sense, but on another level, where I had to look inward and not just look at the external and say, okay, all these things are happening to me. And this is the system, and these are the clients that I'm having to manage and deal with, or even the professionals. I had to really focus on myself and say, okay, but what am I contributing to this? Because I don't have to be here. I could be doing anything else in the world. I'm choosing to be here in social work. Why am I here? What am I doing? What am I contributing to how I'm actually feeling? And so in saying that, I guess what I realized, I came to some realizations that, I was going from one local authority to the next, thinking it was going to be different, hoping that it was going to be different. And despite the fact I kept getting the same experience, that after a while it wasn't any different, I still kept doing the same thing. And I think Einstein's the one that said, like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? And so I really had to say, okay, Nicole, you are contributing to this. There comes a point where you have to take responsibility and recognize that nothing's been done to you. You are stepping into an arena that is a certain way, and you're allowing yourself to do it. So you've got to take some responsibility and appraise what you are contributing to this situation. And so, I was good at advocating for myself and saying when I think I'd had too many cases, or when I was told you're spending too much time with families, you should only be spending half an hour, with families, or when I was asked to put a woman who was fleeing domestic violence in a mother and babies unit with the perpetrator, I was able to advocate to the service manager and say I wasn't going to do that. So you'd have to get somebody else to do it, because that doesn't align with what I believe should happen. I was very good at that advocacy and knowing my boundaries and been able to share that in an appropriate way. But again, that still only went so far, because the reality is, as one person, I can't change the system. I can't change the way in which things are done in local authorities or other organizations. I can have a voice and share my views, but that would only go so far, right? And so, I really had to decide to myself, what was I going to do? Am I going to continue to contribute to the situation by continually turning up and going to these sorts of places, or was I going to do something different? And so after that, the third thing I did was I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision one way or another. And it didn't matter whichever way I went, because it was a decision. And I had to be settled in that decision. I had to be comfortable with living with that decision and go full hog, go all the way forward with that decision, whatever it was going to be. And I guess I got to a point where I decided that I didn't want to continue doing that. I was actually I think it was the first time that I really made a conscious decision. So even though I had sought out somebody in business to actually help me, think about business. At the end of the day, it really wasn't, a decision that I really made. Like, I was deciding at that point, I'm going independent. It was like I was dipping my toes in the water, really, and seeing what I could do. I wasn't committed enough to it, because if I was, I would have actually gone further with it and taken that information and leveraged it. I didn't. I was playing it safe, and I was really willing to contribute to remaining stuck, frustrated, burnt out, overwhelmed, and everything else. Even though that's harsh to admit, the reality is that's what I was doing. And so when I made a decision that no, I'm going to be independent, I'm leaving, like, it was never an option to not do social work, because I don't know what else I would do with my time, really and truly. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there are other things that I could do when I think about it in terms of organization and the skills as a social worker, but I know that all the health and social care industries are much of a muchness, even the education. So I'm not about to jump from the frying pan into the fire. That just doesn't make sense, because, social work is a beast that I know, but I don't necessarily know the health arena, or working in other arenas relating to health and social care, like midwifery, for example, or something. So I don't see the point in kind of clocking, putting the clock back to zero, where I've got to learn all these new things and go into a completely new industry that is much of a muchness. Like, there's no point. So not doing social work wasn't an option. That just wasn't, because that's where my heart is, and that's what I know my calling is. And so I made a decision that I would be independent. And outside of that decision, I guess what led me to making the decision is that I got tired of feeling frustrated. I had to get to that point where I was really tired of being frustrated. I was tired of being tired. I was tired of being overwhelmed. I was tired of being confused. I was tired of being between that rock and that hard place. I was just fed up, really. I just wasn't happy. And I think the realization that I was contributing to it was what helped shift me, if I'm honest with you. And so these are all the stepping stones that has helped change my career, because it's a process. Like doing anything, especially anything that improves you as a person, there are stepping stones to it. It never just happens. So yeah, so I had to make a decision, and the reality of what the consequences were going to be if I didn't make a decision one way or another. Like, if I decided to stay in local authority, then the thing was, like, there's no point in complaining about it. You got to just stay there, make the best of it, be happy with how things are, don't complain, just continue utilizing the systems that you're utilizing, do what you can, do not kill yourself, i.e. do not be clocking up a load of toil that you can't take. I don't know for any of you watching, but I can think about the amount of local authorities I was in where I'd done so much overtime and didn't take the time back. They wouldn't pay me for it, and I was only allowed to take up to 2 days, I think it was, for the month back, if I was going to take it back. And so I would lose a lot of time. Like, the amount of times that I did that, if I was deciding to stay in there, then I knew that I would have to have some boundaries and say, okay, well, I'm only going to do work up to the amount of toil that I know I'm allowed to take, or that they would pay me for, and no more than that. I'd have to just put boundaries around it and not complain, and stay there and be happy and do the work. But I knew that I wouldn't have been happy with that, so I chose independence. And so I'd say that was a big thing, like the reality of what the consequences were if I remained in that situation of just going around in circles. The thought of continuing to wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes with panic attacks, thinking, oh my God, I forgot to do this chronology, and this case is going to be due for this LPM meeting shortly, or, a case note that I forgot to write up, or a visit that I haven't yet been able to reschedule that I had to cancel because one of my other cases popped up and kind of an emergency happened on it, like all of those things. And the thought of having to live like that for another, like at that point, obviously it was 15 years. And I'm thinking, like, doing another 5 years of that was like, I thought of it and I just couldn't. I was like, the thought of it alone was making me panic and just think, what would life be like? Would I be well in health? Where would I be in terms of my mindset? What local authority would I be? I mean, by this time I was maybe I was on local authority number 12 by that point. I've worked in quite a number of local authorities. So I would be thinking, like, where would I go? I mean, I know that there are lots of local authorities across the UK, but I really did not intend on working on every single one of them, right? So I'm thinking, what on earth was I going to do different? I'm thinking, like, what is life going to be like to continually be this unhappy, be this burnt out, I couldn't see where it was going other than just down a dark hole, really, and to a place where I would have thought exhaustion. I would have got signed off sick. I can definitely say that the work and the pace and how I was being contributed to poor health now that I'm now having to manage and in a great position to manage. But I can definitely say that, it was problematic, it was difficult. And so thinking about those consequences helped me also to make that shift. And so I wanted also the thought of been I also wanted to be able to think about how I was going to do things differently in a way that I wanted to do it. So I knew that if I decided to stay, then I wouldn't be able to, as I said before. So I was clear about my vision of what I wanted for myself. So I knew I didn't want to be chained to a desk. I wanted to have the flexibility to travel internationally, but also just within my borough. Like if I wanted to go to a library, if I wanted to go to a cafe, if I wanted to go to a friend's house, if I decided actually I'm going to go down to Holborn and utilize one of the workspaces there, if I wanted to go network in the middle of the day, if I wanted whatever it was, like I knew that that's what I wanted. And I always knew also that I would not be stuck working for just one person or with one person. Like I'd have several contracts on the go, doing different things. I was very clear about how I wanted life to be. I was clear about how many days I wanted to work, the hours I wanted to work, and the hours I didn't want to work. And I was also clear about like the hobbies and the things that I wanted to do. And I can tell you that even though I was clear about that, when I actually got into being independent, I realized I was so institutionalized. I was actually pushing myself in a way that I was used to working in local authority. So it really testifies to, the fact that even with a vision, it's hard work to get yourself out of that institutional kind of mentality and employee mindset mentality. There's a lot of work that needs to be done internally. And so I guess I had really just started the process and the steps of, getting real with myself, appraising my input and what I was contributing, then making the decision. The fourth thing that I did was I did it. Like I didn't just say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do it and then back off. The one thing that I would say is true of anybody is when you make a decision to do something, you've got to write it down and you have to do it. And in my case, my thing was about making a resignation. And as soon as I decided and sat there and married the idea in my head that I'm leaving local authority work and not doing it anymore because it was not serving me and I wasn't able to serve those that I wanted to in the way and to the depth and with the quality that I wanted to, emotionally, I checked out. And that made me feel good, but I acted upon it. I didn't just settle into that idea. I actually made it real. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I had to do, was because, making the decision is only half the step. You have to then actually have to be committed to seeing it through. And so what I actually did was I got the laptop out and I put in the resignation. I just wrote it in an email. I explained why I was doing it and I hit the send button and it was done. And there was then, I guess I can't say that there's no going back because I could have always changed my mind and they would have been glad. But in my mind, it was settled. And so as far as I'm concerned, there was no going back. I wasn't going to change my mind on that. I was actually going to stick to it because I put it out there and now I was accountable to making it happen. Yeah. And so I did it. I actually made the decision. And I took the step and I acted on it immediately. So there was no time for the imposter syndrome, or if I decided to share it with somebody that they were going to talk me out of it, or tell me, well, why don't you stay because, the money is good, or whatever the case may be. There was just no way that was an option. And so that was one of the fundamental things that I did. Like I actually took action. I did it. I made it happen because I was decided. And so the other thing that I did as part of that action is I started to strategize, because it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to do this thing, but now I need to strategize. Okay, well, how am I going to actually do this? I'd like to do it and I've got the vision, but how am I going to do it? And bearing in mind, like I didn't know anything about business. I didn't even really equate independent social work with running a business, if I'm honest with you, because that's not what I knew of it. That's not what I see in the UK. It being spoken about in that way, certainly back then. And so I had to do a lot of information seeking. I had to strategize and figure to myself, how was I going to do it? What was I going to do? And try to do some learning. And that was the fifth thing that I did. I had to be committed. I actually committed to my learning. So that was investing, right? That was the first thing. And there was a few areas in which I had to do this. So in terms of investing and committing, the first thing was investing in money wise. Like, I had to be willing to put my money where my mouth is. If I'm saying that I want to be independent, then I had to be willing to do the learning and pay for learning, and pay for the stationery, pay for the equipment, pay for the things that I needed to do to actually set me up and to put me in a space where I can do it. And so I was always used to doing that. Even when I was a locum, I would pay for my training outside. I would find training courses and go on it. So that was something that was very ingrained in me. And I think that's because that's how I've always done it. Even when I was strategizing as a teenager to start the social work degree, you know, I would invest in learning and be willing to pay for things. That's just how I tick. And so I'd say that that really followed me, that kind of attitude followed me and geared me up well for independence. And so I was willing to do whatever learning I needed to do, paying for mentoring, whatever it was, to understand and invest in being able to give me the transformation that I needed. Like, I needed to learn about independence. I need to learn the components of independence and the moving parts to get me going. And so the financial commitment was there. But the other thing was about the commitment of time. Like, the time that I spent, you know, doing the learning, doing the information seeking, sitting down and strategizing from my head and thinking and putting it down on paper and making it happen. And, you know, again, taking the time out to do research and talk to people and get in front of the right people that was going to help me move forward and help me in my learning was really key. And then the other thing that I had to be committed to was suspending my ego, suspending the idea that, you know, I don't need to do that. I don't really need to know that. I can just play small and just do it like this. And as long as I've got money coming in, then that's okay. Like, I had to let go of ego and be committed to serving and understanding that what I'm doing as an independent social worker is actually serving people, and remembering why I actually became independent. So for those of you that don't know, what made me decide to become an independent social worker was me being nosy and looking in my mother's paperwork one day while she was having a conversation with a visitor. And I came across a flyer that a well-known charity here in the UK had publicized, and it must have come through our door. And she had it in one of her piece of her paperwork and her documents. And I was looking at it, reading a case study of a 3-year-old who had been physically abused and his arm had been broken. And it just resonated with me. And I felt so bad and I felt so sad for this baby that I said, I really want to be committed to helping children that are, you know, abused and being hurt and aren't being taken care of well. And that's really the conception of me, you know, becoming a social worker. And I was very, like, when I make a decision about something, I am all in and I go for it. And, you know, generally those are the people that I really like working with. And the social workers that I do work with are all those kind of people. They're people that make decisions and they're not afraid to stand on their decision, and they understand that there's always a plan B. In my case, I've never had a plan B, because I know that I always just knew it would work. I always knew that I would become a social worker. I was just determined, and there was no other options. And so, yeah, being committed and investing in you know, being able to suspend my ego and being clear that I want to serve was another thing that has really changed my career, because what that's meant for me as an independent has meant that I'm always learning. Like at every stage, I'm always developing. And as I get to that pinnacle, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more to learn. It's like you get through the ceiling, you think the ceiling is where it's at, and then you get through the ceiling, and then you see all this other stuff and the other planes to get to, and it's exciting. But you know, there's always something more to learn, and so that has been a big thing for me. Another two things that I've done. The first thing is that I've surrounded myself with people that have been able to help me. So people that are where I want to be, as well as people that are of the same mindset as me, is very important. So they might be at the same stage as me and we're going together, but I'm definitely surrounding myself with people that are where I want to be and that can teach me and help me with what I need to know. And that is really important. And that's even now, like I have several mentors, I have 2 or 3 mentors that I plug in with very regularly, and a couple of others that I dip in and out of, because they are where I want to be in terms of doing certain things within business. And all my mentors are people that are earning more than me, they're more experienced than me in business, and they're able to teach and share me with new things with me that I didn't know. And so sometimes when I'm sharing it with my clients, they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I'm forgetting that it is going to be new, because I guess it's stuff that I've been learning from them and that I'm putting into practice. And so that is something that's really important, in plugging into people that can help me on my journey. And then the final thing is being able to keep belief alive. I have to keep my belief alive that I'm able to get to the next stage, get to learn. And this was especially important when I very first started out as an independent, not knowing anything in business, having to figure it out, having to commit the way I was committing in terms of time and finances to be able to do the learning and put it into practice, fail at some of it. So suspending the ego again, and remembering it's not about me, it's about who I'm serving and how I'm hoping to help. And so being able to do all of that, I had to really work hard on keeping the belief alive. And I did that partly by gathering mentors, but I also did that by ensuring that, again, people that were maybe negative, people that were talking me out of doing what I wanted to do, or maybe coming up with obstacles to what I was trying to do because they didn't have the vision. I had to realize that they were people that were really reflecting their own fears or their lack of being able to have confidence and belief themselves in what it is I was trying to do. Yeah, so it was a reflection on them and their lack of not achieving certain things. And so I had to get really clear in my mind that those kind of people were not helpful for me. And so I had to really leave some of those people behind, or not engage with them so much, or have boundaries around that, so that I was actually able to thrive and move forward. So those are really the 7 things that I did. So I'm just going to recap. I got real with myself. I appraised my own contribution to how stuck I was feeling and the negative experience that I was having. I had to make a decision, and then I acted on that decision immediately, not after time, but immediately. And then I committed in various ways, financially, time-wise, and in terms of suspending my ego, so that I was able to recognize why I was doing this. And then I surrounded myself with the right people that were further ahead than me. So I was able to get that support and learning, and then finally making sure that I was keeping my belief alive by ensuring that the wrong people were not around me. So those are the things that have really changed my career, and it's those things that have allowed me to, despite not knowing, you know, even what a tax return was, not knowing not understanding taxes, not understanding how to actually market myself, not understanding the nuances of sales and marketing, or how to create products and services, like not knowing any of that stuff, I've still generated 6 figures into my business, and I've made an impact, and I've served people, and I've been, you know, I've had solicitors choose me above other social workers. They've been willing to wait for me to come back from a month's work holiday just because they want me doing their reports, you know. And so I have solicitors that give me repeat work. I have solicitors that move departments, move organizations and firms completely and still come to me, right? And so, you know, I've built that, and I have social workers DMing me all the time about the work that I do. I have people asking me to come and speak. You know, those are the things that have, these are all the things that I've just mentioned are things that have changed my career, and it's allowed me to really practice social work the way I want to practice it, and live in the way I want to live, and have my lifestyle the way I want to have it. And so it's available and possible for you too. And I want to invite you to be able to join me and other social workers that have already signed up to the Social Workers Launch to Freedom program. You know, if you haven't already gone on to the page and had a look or signed up, please do come along. This will be life-changing. You're going to be able to start your independent social work practice. And if you've already started it, like some that have signed up, then you're going to be able to go fully independent and tweak it and get a solid infrastructure. It's a step-by-step program that we do for 6 months, and there's 6 months of support built in. So essentially you have me for a year to actually get your practice off the ground. And I teach you everything from ground zero, if you don't even know what independence is, all the way to hiring staff and launching your business and beyond. And so I invite you to go to the website, nicolemlouis.com, and take a look at it. Enrollment is now open. And so I'd like you also, if you haven't done already, share this live and this tutorial, so that other social workers like yourself will be able to get the benefit of learning about what they can do immediately to start changing their career. So thank you so much for listening, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon. I have some other webinars coming up, so look out for that. And yeah, if there's any content that you like to see me share with you, please drop me a DM, or you can comment under this live stream, and I'll gladly create that for you. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.